Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum. Welcome to 2 Chronicles chapter 11, in which there are 23 verses. Beginning in verse 1, it says here, young men fit for war versus chosen men which were warriors. So the difference here is they are young men fit for battle versus veterans. Warriors denoting that they had previously fought in the past. Let me just look that up here. It's just loading. Okay, it says here, Asa, to do, fashion, accomplish, make. So I'm not sure how that relates to warriors. You know what? I'm gonna have to open up another tab just to verify. I apologize for the wait. Milkama, battle, war. So they had done war. So veterans, hence veterans. Verse 3, talking about all Israel in the Masoretic versus all Judah. So it's not all Israel, it's only all Judah. Verse 4, this is Hashem speaking. This thing is of me. So this comes from me. Versus this thing is done of me. So this is an action I've done. Versus no, this is really from me. You can verify. I can authenticate this. You can take this to the bank. These are my words, and there should be no doubt that this is me speaking. Okay, and then it says word versus words. Verse 5, walled cities versus cities for defense. Verse 11, fortified the cities. Versus fortified the strongholds. So that is the implication in the Septuagint, that he was fortifying the cities, as was mentioned in the previous line here. Verse 12, very strongly. In the footnote for that, these words, it says here in great numbers. So he fortified them, not so much that he made them of stronger material. More specifically, they were fortified very strongly because they were produced in great numbers. So that is the sense in which to understand that they were very strongly fortified in terms of increasing the numbers of weaponry and shields. Verse 13, gathered versus resorted. So the word resorted means to present themselves, which is very similar to the Septuagint, but resort, the word itself can be misconstrued to be understood as last resort. So like they optioned to, rather than physically presenting themselves. Verse 14, tents versus suburbs, which is translated to mean common land. So two distinct words being used here. One for tents or temporary dwellings, and then suburbs. This is an interesting difference. It talks about how the Levites went to Judah and then to Jerusalem. So they went to Judah, and more specifically in the city of Jerusalem. So this is proof that Jerusalem and the area of Judah are inextricable. You cannot separate them. They are one and the same. Jerusalem is part of Judah, historically speaking. Whereas in the Masoretic, it says he came to Judah and Jerusalem, which seems to denote these are two different places, which would fit the modern narrative that that Jerusalem belongs somewhere else rather than Judah. And then they would use this to say that the land of Israel, as we know it today, is not Judah, that it is somewhere else. So this is a very dangerous verse if used in the wrong way, but in the Septuagint, there's no argument that Jerusalem is part of Judah. Verse 15, idols. And for the vanities versus for the devils. And the word for devils is satyr or he-goat. So that's an interesting study to do. Verse 17, he walked 3 years in the ways of David and Solomon, talking about Rehoboam. Whereas in the Masoretic, it talks about they walked in the way of David and Solomon. Who are they? It's all Israel, the tribes of Israel, those who set their hearts to seek Hashem. Verse 22, we have an omission of the word intended, for he, talking about King David, or no, not David, talking about Rehoboam, as it relates to his son Abiah, he intended to make him king, to make Abijah or Abiah the king. It seems to say the same thing in the Masoretic, but there's no intention here. It just says that Rehoboam made Abijah the son of Maacah the chief, ruler among his brethren, to make him king, so for the purpose of. But as it reads in the Septuagint, it seems to imply that his heart's intention, his purpose, his plan, his rationale for doing that, yes, to make him king, but it speaks more of his heart's intent. So we get a glimpse of perhaps his mindset, what he's thinking, what he's planning. Verse 23, and he was exalted beyond all his other sons. Verses, and he dealt wisely and dispersed of all his children. So Abijah or Abijah was given preferential treatment. That's the way I initially interpreted this, because it seems that his father made him, yes, his father technically made him a leader, a chief among his brethren. So for me, personally, I read that as, okay, he's giving him preferential treatment. He's treating him with favoritism, with partiality, versus Abijah dealt wisely. It says here he dealt wisely and spread his children throughout the kingdom. Just let them live all over the place. That's how it seems to be rendered. That's the gist of it. However, the footnote in the hard copy reads, in terms of the word exalted, as increased. So it's not so much that he was exalted in terms of preferential treatment. What it is saying here in verse 23 is that he was increased beyond all his other sons. So Abijah or Abijah was increased beyond all the other sons of Rehoboam. Why? Just read the numbers of children he had. From the 18 wives and 60 concubines, it says he had 28 sons and 60 daughters. That's 88 souls coming from his loins. So yes, he was greatly increased beyond all his other sons. Perhaps the other sons had maybe 10, 12 at the most, but not 88. Okay, so that's all for this chapter. Thank you very much for your time. Until next time, I bid you all Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum, Irini Mazisu, Pax Vobiscum, Peace be unto you, and Maranatha.